Hi, and welcome back. We hope you've enjoyed hearing part 1 of Pat Stewart's newest book, Love Stories, published in 2025. Today, we begin reading part 2, called Connecting. You will hear in her writing how her life was influenced by her great-grandmother, her father, and then her children. John, her second child, is here to introduce Connecting. The story that follows is called Ellis Island, New York, June 2001. Part 2, Connecting.
Hey everybody, this is John Stewart, second born of Jack and Pat and firstborn son. I was the first grandson to my grandparents. I was young when my grandpa died, but seems like we visited them as often as we could. My grandfather was used to all women with 4 daughters. I like to think I was the first grandson, so he liked having us boys around. I love to read and listen to Mom's stories, especially the stories of us kids' early years visiting family in Missouri. I got to see my Uncle Paul, who took us fishing, so I enjoyed visiting him. Mom and I had a good connection together. When I got my learner's permit, she would take me to work. I would drive, of course. She trusted me enough, and I drove to and from the theater with her as my co-pilot. When we were in France, Mom and Dad let us pick where we wanted to eat for our birthday. I decided I wanted to eat escargot, snails. Mom and Dad found the place to go, so I did have escargot in France. I enjoyed them, but I'm not so sure Mom liked them or not. She never did say. I enjoyed the family stories with family members she wrote about that we didn't get to see that much. One of my favorite stories of Mom's was Jesse James was Elvis's grandfather. I believed it until she told us at the end it was fiction. That was a great story, though. Part 2 of Mom's book is Connecting. There are stories of love, family, sense of connection, rules, which has great stories of their own of the family rules. They are some of my favorites.
Ellis Island, New York, June 2001. It was my first trip to New York. I stood in a long line at Battery Park, waiting for the ferry to take me to Ellis Island. It was hot. Vendors sold high-priced bottles of water and umbrellas. We waited in line for 2 hours until it was our turn to board. Once inside the boat, drinking water was hard to find. Some was non-potable. Restrooms were crowded. Food was of poor quality and overpriced. A babble of languages swirled around me. My own language was there, mixed in with Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, and German. Babies in strollers cried. Finally, the boat left the dock. The trip itself didn't take long. In a few minutes, I saw the Statue of Liberty. This was the first time I saw that great lady, just as earlier immigrants saw her when they arrived in this country. I felt a swell of pride and desire to capture this moment in my mind's eye. I didn't need a photograph or video. Using the camera would have broken the spell of seeing the statue. I didn't go inside. Seeing it was enough. After all, travelers 100 years ago didn't go inside. The stop they awaited was Ellis Island. When we disembarked, we followed those well-worn footsteps into the Ellis Island Immigration Museum, full of tourists, most of whom would go home to an American life. That feeling came over me as I studied the pictures of the history of the Great Hall. Many of those who came through here did not remain in America. Questions by the workers weeded out the sick, the criminals, and those who had been encouraged by American employers to come for work. They were forced to return to the old country. This trip led me to experience the trip my great-grandmother made over a century ago. I could also see her taking the same steps as I took as she entered the Great Hall. If she had written in a journal in June 1895, it would have sounded something like this. June 1895, Ellis Island, New York. My daughter Mathilde and I walked up to the deck of the ship. My heart's desire was right in front of my eyes, the lady with the lamp. I looked at New York Harbor and the Statue of Liberty. I would soon see my daughters and sons in their American homes. I was in America. My desire was to come live with my children who came to America. I stayed in Austria with my husband and son on the family farm. But when my husband died, I longed to live with my daughter and her family. That meant I would have to travel to America. The trip across to Antwerp took many days. By the time we got on that ship, the desire had almost left me. Once on the boat, it got worse. We had brought clothes and some food, but I quickly realized that food was not all we needed. Storms made us queasy and sick. We had very little space. The heat made it worse. Mothers nursing infants crowded our space. 2 babies were born in the weeks it took us to travel. Mathilde and I could not leave this boat, called Friesland, until our turn came. The lines were very long, and with over 900 people on the boat, it took a long time. Since we were traveling 3rd class, we were among the very last to leave. Vendors were selling packets of strange food I'd never seen before. It cost too much, so I ate what I had left. Ellis Island was the place of my least desire. All I wanted was to get out of this building and onto the streets of the city. Workers questioned us as we tried to get our papers in order. I heard languages I could not understand. A doctor checked us for diseases. I saw others turned back because of consumption. After a day in line and a day in the Great Hall, we boarded the ferry to the city and finally walked down the gangplank into the streets of New York. More vendors crowded around us selling food, clothing, train tickets for travel, and hotel rooms. We knew we could not leave the area until a male relative came for us. My son Carl was waiting and ready to make the next step of our journey. "Welcome to America," he said. "I have train tickets to Missouri, your new home." "Let's go home," I replied. One of the greatest influences in Pat's life was her father, Buford Webster. Next week's story, called Father's Day Memory, is a beautiful tribute to her father's love. Please join us.